Three, two, one, and we are live. Good morning, Paresh. Happy to see you. How are you doing, man?
Hi Saurabh, I'm very good. Happy to see you also. Good
I
morning.
haven't bumped into you in a while actually, since the lockdown.
Yeah, because you and me used to always meet each other on the boat, right? Either we were crossing each other on the boat or we were. But since lockdown, getting out has not been that much of an occurrence, right? So,
Mm.
yeah.
What have you been up to otherwise these days?
Okay, so it's been almost 6 months now since lockdown, 5 or 6 months,
6 months.
and 6 months, yeah. So I've been home, man. I've been home the whole time. Uh, and I've been keeping myself busy with like household chores. So I've been like cleaning, jhadu, pocha,
Yeah.
dusting, bartan, that kind of stuff.
Karate Kid
Uh,
vibe.
yeah, I've gotten really good at it. My patience, all those things I've done all those things along. You got to do jhadu every day, and you can't do a rush job of it. You have to do it patiently. You have to learn to love it, and that's when it doesn't, seem like a chore anymore and things like that. So, full on life lessons. But besides that, yeah, I've been keeping myself busy with also practicing my guitar, which I hadn't been doing for a long time, for almost 2 years. So then I started doing that, put the old metronome on again, and
Yeah.
started through the motions a little bit, and then yeah, it's been great. I can't complain about anything, man. It's been really good.
Amazing, man. So, what are you working on when you're practicing nowadays? Are you taking tunes or are you just jamming to tracks? What is practice to you exactly?
So that's I try and like attack a different thing every time I'm practicing. So like some days it's just working on the time, playing and using the metronome at 40, like really slow,
Hmm.
and playing double over it, playing like ta ta deliberately everything pa cha, doing that, that really for me, that really helps me with my time, because you literally have to you know elaborate everything so much that you can't, you're not gliding over anything or sliding over anything. It's all very deliberate. Your whole finger muscle memory, everything, it's just being bone and like that. So it works for me like that. Then some days I'll just take a blues,
Hmm.
and I'll apply, like some things that are there theoretically in my head. This is how you can approach going from the first to the fourth. By playing the melodic minor, by those kind of things. So I try and approach. I try and do that sometimes. And some days I'll just like keep the metronome on, and I'll be like, this is it, just uh, let's see what comes out kind of thing. I'll start with something and then keep playing that for a little bit, and then it becomes something else. And basically, that the exercise in that is to not restrict myself to some kind of chord structure or
Hmm.
whatever. It's like free flowing in thought and see what comes up. What the hands come up with.
So all these years of experimenting with different sounds, different bands, you're still reinventing, not reinventing, but I would say you're still working on, the things that are still running in your head. And you have seen more than 3 decades of the industry, right? You have seen phases that I haven't seen at all. I kind of landed into a specific phase. From there, things change in a very different manner. I mean, they're kind of evolving in a different way. But you have seen industry shifts, like from the 90s to the 2000s, then Bollywood taking over completely, leaving behind the independent music that started coming up in the 90s, which was Shubha Mudgal, Shan, and KK, and all that thing happened all in front of you. And even the time before that, when bands were the thing that they would go to colleges, you guys as Chakravyuh will travel to multiple tech colleges, do your performances there, and they're also doing original music. How ready have you been? Like, how did you receive this change? Because you did get involved in the 90s indie scene, right? And then suddenly everything changes. What is your reaction to that when that happens? Because I haven't seen that kind of a change to realign myself to the industry. What was it first time when you saw that, okay, I spent all these years working on this specific thing and it doesn't exist anymore. What do I do next? Did you have that chat with you, or did time just take you somewhere and then you started all over again?
Mm, so let me take you to like how it was when I first got into the scene, what what the structure was at that time to some of the major changes that have happened since then.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so when I first got into the scene, it was probably like the late 80s, man. I was just a kid, in college, and um I used to stay in Idla, and I had a guitar and I had an amp and I used to practice and things like that. But I didn't know there was any music scene in this country at all. I didn't. There must have been something, but I thought it was all Bollywood and that kind of stuff. I didn't know like people, did rock music or pop music, any of those things. Then this friend of mine from college comes over home and he sees this amp and he sees that I have long hair and I have like an amp and guitar and I'm playing and he's like, you gotta start a rock band or something, man. I was like,
Uh,
man, you crazy? Like here in Bombay? He says, yeah, here in Bombay. And I'm like, does it exist? And he's like, oh shit, man, which rock have you been living under? And then he gets me this Rock Machine, Rock and Roll Renegade album.
mm-hmm.
We start going out for rock shows, and I'm like checking out this whole scene, and I'm like imagining that, wow, I could totally be part of this. So that was the scene when I first got into the thing. We used to have like Brabant Stadium, Wankhede Stadium, Alibag Beach, all these kind of big venues, along with Rang Bhavan, which is like the legendary venue. They should be filled, man. They should be filled with like people. Like imagine a whole stadium filled with people there to see like Rock Machine and Mirage and
Mm-hmm.
those bands that used to be at that time. People, and there was like a there was like a dividing scene. This is Bollywood, and you guys go there, and this is this independent scene. And in the independent scene, like anybody who ever liked jazz, anybody who ever liked rock, anybody, they would all be at this show. If it was a rock show, if it was a jazz show, the crowds will always be there, and that's where everyone met, and it was like a social kind of scene also.
Hmm.
Uh, that's where everyone went, and like you knew that there'd be like the girls there or the boys there, and it was a proper like everyone came dressed, and that was the
Yeah.
thing, be indie show. And then at some point, MTV and Channel V, they got into the scene. They became present in India, and we had like music television, and there was Headbangers Ball, and the dream that, man, what if they feature us on that Headbangers Ball? We'll make a video, and that became like the next thing that was happening within that scene. And then next thing you know, is like they are like, hey, you know what? We're gonna be putting up shows. We are going to be putting up rock shows, and in fact, this time you're going to be televised and it's going to be on MTV.
Hmm.
And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And we're going to get better sponsorship. We're going to get bigger venues. You're going to get bigger sound, bigger stages, bigger everything. And
This is
uh,
happening for which band?
this
This
is
particular
happening.
thing.
This is happening when 1991, when satellite television came to India, and this is happening for all the bands. This
For all
was
the bands, okay.
Yeah, so like where earlier we went to these Farhad Wade organized Independence Rock at Rang Bhavan, but now there was MTV organized, you know, they would call it something or the other, and it was sponsored by some whiskey or some big kind of money bag.
So there's money pouring in completely into the production values of the things.
So it all looks like, man, this is the way, this is the way up, and this is going to be a bigger version of what we had all these years.
Hmm.
Wrong. What happened was that they had shows, and like they would have like film stars, and they would have like cricketers and all these kind of people, politicians come and like uh, do television segments like between the bands, like so there would be television segments. They'd come and say give an award for young achievers or some made up goddamn thing. They would come in, and that would be part of the show, right? And then the bands would be playing between and everything. And then finally, when we saw this on TV, there was nothing of the bands. There was
Ah.
only there was only Rani Mukherjee presenting an award. There was only Ajay Jadeja cracking two jokes with Cyrus Brocha. It was only those things. There was no band. There was just like and while they're talking, like the VJs talking and the band's playing at the back. And next we're gonna have so and so, and that was basically it. There was no like big. That was it. That was like, and then the next time you saw those same shows, these film stars and cricketers had like major like vanity vans and all the security around them, and these all the bands, like 17 bands, would be under one like
Uh-huh.
tent, and that would be room for all the bands, and these guys would be there. And he suddenly realized that we've been had, man. they just came in and hardpared the whole scene. Like so now, they weren't. We didn't. The sponsors wouldn't be interested in independence rock anymore. They were putting all the money in that scene. And that scene was all about Shah Rukh Khan and Govinda and all these people. So MTV became about the filmies again. So our scene, which was existing earlier without any of their help,
So, so
was
this
suddenly
is
open.
what year was this when?
But 91, it carried on, like, say, the death knell for the whole scene. It took a few years, but, like, say, by 95 or something like that, it was over. Independence Rock and all these other shows that, we used to, jazz shows, like even Jazz Yatra. There used to be a
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
called
yeah.
Jazz Yatra. Every was Jazz Yatra, man. Joe Zawinul, and Betty Carter, Trilo Gurtu, Herbie Hancock, every big name used to have these kind
Hmm.
of events in Bombay. There used to be Jazz Yatra. Everybody used to go for that. Jazz Yatra kind of died, and it was all about like Govinda and Shah Rukh Khan on these channels, and the sponsorship for all those events. Each and every event just kind of vanished.
So around this mid 90s, around 95, there was this era of rock before that when all these gigs were happening, and in terms of broadcast TV particularly, this died around 95 when people realized there's more airtime you get when you show a celebrity on the TV instead of a band who some people know, some people might not know. Now, around that time is when people like Shan, Shubha Mudgal, and Sultan Khan Saab, Sunita Rao, all this starts coming up. Is this after 95? Is this when this dies and these celebrities are taking over the whole scene? Somewhere around this time, all this starts popping up, and all these people who are very good with rock, jazz, and arranging music, producing music, they step into this industry. Another thing is born, which is the pop era or indie pop, we would call it. That's what the cassettes were also called that time. Some
Yeah,
indie pop compilation. This was the time, right? After this thing faded out.
exactly around that time.
Mm.
Because what if Sunday you had like videos, people started making music videos, which wasn't the case earlier. But like suddenly you start having music videos, and then you have music videos, so then you start having like indie pop and people recording this music and releasing it. Yeah, Shan, Shweta Shetty, Anaida, Mehnaz, a lot, a
Silk Route.
lot. Yeah, Silk Route. So yeah, that era began at that time.
And who was putting money into these videos? Who was behind, like, as a backbone in terms of finances? Was it the label always or something else?
It was a label. So there was Magnus Sound, then there was damn, I can't even remember some of these. There was always Sony was there. There was Magnus Sound, and see, I don't even remember the names of these labels, but
That's okay.
there were a bunch of people. There was, you know, then you suddenly start having A&R people, coming in, and and then Baba Segal and all these kind of things. You start having different kinds of music in the scene suddenly. So that was the era when that began, and we guys from doing shows and like having a fan following and like like a diary full of dates and everything like that was suddenly like the venues like Ram Bhavan was closed down. All these things happened simultaneously.
Mm.
Like the bomb blast in Bombay happened, when that whole mandir stuff was going on, Ayodhya. Then after that, Dawood and gang,
Mm.
like all those happened in Bombay. So then the nightlife kind of was affected, and crowds of 5,000 and 10,000 people at a rock venue and stuff like that. That was just like unimaginable for the police anymore. They was just like, no, you got to stop this stuff. Rang Bhavan got closed down. All the venues that we used to play at were kind of shut. The sponsorship wasn't coming in, and so then clubs started opening up, like places like Raspberry Rhinoceros,
Mm-hmm.
in Juhu. That was a club that we all go to. So that opened up about 93, and it was like the staple for people like us, who wanted to go out and play some music. Uh, so that was like the venue. Then Jazz by the Bay in town, that was another venue. Then Soul Fry in Bandra, and small little venues started opening up all around Bombay, which were like now those were the places that we would play at rather than Rang Bhavan and playing this big rock kind of music. Then we were like playing like more suited to the venue kind of music.
What was the
So that started
outfit?
happening.
What was the band that time you were moving around playing with?
Okay, so until 92, I was playing in a band called Witch Hammer, starting with 89. That's when I formed a band
That's a thrash
in
metal band.
college. Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah. So that was like my starting, man. Like that guy, he came to my house and he saw my long hair and everything. He said he got to start a band. So we did start a band in college, and we started doing college competitions, and uh, and then like the members lineup changed. I got in some other guys, and JD was part of that band. Lindsay was part of that band. Ravi Ayer was part of that band, and then we started playing these college things. We started playing Moodai. Then we went and played in Pune and here and there. And then in '93, uh, you know, I kind of grew out of thrash music
Hmm.
all of a sudden overnight. It happened because I was at a friend Kayo's place, and he made me indulge in this substance that I wasn't really trying out before that.
Hmm.
But after a few talks of this new substance, I started hearing Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd in a completely new way.
Hmm.
And then as the months progressed, I became a totally new person. My hairstyle changed, my clothes changed, the kind of music
Whole
I listened to
colors in your
changed.
life.
Yeah, I started appreciating people that I just didn't have any time for. Like BB King, who's like my favorite guitar player now. I remember at one time, people used to tell me about BB King, and I'd be like, nah, man. And like Pink Floyd, I'd be like, no, man, I just can't hear that stuff. I don't have the patience for that. Like Us, and you go to sleep and then you wake up, and them, I'm like, no, no, I can't hear this. Like turn that off. I used to be that kind of guy, and then after a few talks of this new substance, I'm like, listening to Led Zepp like all
Hmm.
day long, and so then at this point, then I got into a new band called Crisis because I couldn't gel with the other band members on thrash music anymore. So me and Suraj Jagan, he was looking for a band as well because his lineup in Crisis, they split up. So then I became the new guitarist of Crisis, and me and Suraj were like writing songs all day, all inspired by like Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and all these new bands that I'd gotten into. So then we did that for like a year, but the scene at that same time had completely died. It was '93, and the blast that happened in Bombay and all, everything was like shut by 10:30. You couldn't keep anything
Hmm.
open after that. So as a result, like the whole scene kind of collapsed. But me and Suraj and we had Karthik and Dalen. This is the band Crisis. Four of us. We wrote like more than 100 songs,
Hmm.
and me and Suraj, like every time we got together, we just start like jamming, and by the end of the jam, we had a song, or at least like one song, but sometimes like 5 songs. Like from just jamming all day. He wouldn't have the lyrics, but he'd write something like you know whatever came to his thing, just to
Right.
keep a meter. And he would sing that, and we would record it on a cassette. And there were like hundreds and hundreds of
Hmm.
jams of that. And we had completed a few of them. So we might have completed. So that was a great time for me to like practice songwriting. And at the same time, there's another friend of mine, Kayo, who had got himself a Fostex
Hmm.
four-track recorder. So I'd go to his place, and we would like like take a Casio keyboard and like take a drum beat from there, and like loop that, and like let that play, and then I play like a rhythm guitar or a ching 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 ching, and then like just make up a song from like just linear,
Hmm.
keep going linear, like depending on what we put in and what rhythm I played, what chords I played, and it was just coming out of feel, and then I put some lyrics over it, and we started doing that thing, and that was like our first like hand at production and trying to like make things fit in within a song and stuff like that. So I still have some of those recordings, and it's like really hilarious to
What I
hear all
find
those
really
things.
interesting is
So
that you know how you just mentioned that songwriting is a practice, because generally the assumption that I had in the past was that if I keep getting good at my instrument, songwriting will happen. Like I'll write something out. But then as I started writing some of my own material, I'm realizing how it's a different craft altogether. So you keep writing, writing, writing. Like in your career, we see that there's Kailasa. There are these amazing hit songs which are written perfectly, there's emotion flowing, there's everything that shakes the soul of every person in this country and around the world. And it's almost like how people know Michael Jackson, they know Kailasa, they know Kailash Kher, they know Saiyaan, they know Teri Diwani. But the work that has gone into it, now you're mentioning 100 songs for the band Crisis. And then there are tons of other projects that you have built. You have built so much of music in Bombay Black. There is Hypnodrive. There's of course Kailasa. And as we talk, I'm sure there's much more that's going to pop up. But that whole experience that has condensed itself to produce these hits today, because there's this perception that Kailasa sounds like this because these three people got together and some magic happened. But it's not magic, just magic. Yes, it's magic, but man, you have done the work, you have paid your dues, you have written those thousands. Even Dhruv, he and Vasundhara, they were writing a version of some song some time back. Some song they are about to release in some time. I think he wrote like 7, 8 songs to choose one out of it. And that's the chain for him. Like he says that I have to let this come out first. Whatever has to go down, the drain has to go down the drain, and then one thing will pop up, which I find fascinating about when I hear your material right now. Yes, now I get it. Like when you're practicing also, when I see your practice videos, there's so much influence of soundscapes which is coming from Pink Floyd. Like you start a video and you just strum a chord and you wait for it to ring. It's hard to find that guitar player, who will let it ring. Like, okay, we'll let it ring. But before you know things start moving around, generally when you put up a video online or you click on a player's video. But that I find very, very interesting. That you have spent that time trying to absorb the sounds, do your writing practice, then reach it to this point. So what happened after that? You wrote a bunch of songs, you found that 4-track recorder, and putting beats together and practicing guitar to it essentially. And then what?
Yeah. So that was going on, but like it was aimless at that time because there was nothing on the table as far as like gigs or as far as like record contract or nothing like that. It was a very tough time because my parents had separated at this time. There was no money to run the house. I was living with my mother. We had to run a house plus, so it was really like, damn, are you going to carry on doing this music thing? Where's the money? Where's the work? What are you doing? And, like, so those questions arose. My mom tried to get me to, get into like working at a desk job somewhere. And I, started thinking on those lines. And I went and gave an interview and I got accepted for this job as a salesman selling computers, something like that. And I went and started sitting at this, I went and sat at this desk one day and this guy told me like a bunch of things I'm supposed to do. Like, okay, so these are your clients and, make this sheet and make that sheet and all. While I was doing it, and like a couple of hours into it, I'm like, I just got up and I went to the guy and said like, hey, I didn't expect that I'd be starting the job today. Can I start on Monday? Because I have this and that to do right now. He said, yeah, that's fine. So I left and then I never went back to that job again. I just called him like a couple of hours later, told him like, no, I can't see myself doing this. I'm a musician. I got to do my music thing. So then that was when it became like solidified in my thing that okay, now you're not going to go to that. That's not an option. So music. So you know, um, so like in my head it became at least like there was still there's no path that I'd charted out suddenly magically, or there's no like place to the problems are still all there, but it just became solidified in my head that now I'm going to be a musician and that's it. There's no other
There's
there's
a
no
feeling
backing
of
out of this
urgency
one.
now.
Yeah, there was a feeling of urgency, and like I was 22 at this time, and like I was getting a little paranoid, and but still there was then we started then at the same time like after crisis got over, these boys Chakraview, Anand, Dhruv, and T2, they were just a trio at that time. Uh, so they called and because they knew that me and Suraj were writing a whole bunch of songs, and we have become known as songwriters. Like they'd all come to our jams and say like, man, how you guys writing these songs, man? Like, so we had this songwriting vibe, but we didn't have a band. So they had a band and they didn't have songwriters. So then they said like, why don't you join Chakraview, man, you two? So then I'm in this band now with these boys, and they were already a very popular band. They had won Mood Indigo, uh, and then they had won
Hmm.
Rendezvous in Delhi, and so they were like big on the circuit, and they were getting a whole bunch of shows and everything like that. So then, me and Suraj became part of this band, Chakravyuh, and we had like a run of a year and some, where we played a bunch of different venues, and we played in Madras, and we played in Hyderabad, and places like we didn't get called to these places, but here we were playing in all these places. We played in Bits
Hmm.
Pilani. So that was like like finally
So,
there were gigs
but
and
like this was
paying
the
gigs.
time you could make enough finances to run the house and all, or did you find something else right before that to figure that stuff out?
So no, so in the beginning, my dad was still taking care of
Okay,
like
there was
just the basic
support from there.
base
Okay.
amount you'd ration
Hmm.
fund types, so we were doing that for my dad. I was still giving us that, but we didn't like it was feeling a little like like
I
it
get
didn't
it.
feel
I get
nice,
it.
like asking like boy, like having to ask my dad for money to run the house and everything
Yeah,
like
it's
that. So,
something your
but
self-respect feels at that point of time. So I think it's just that protection. But then when this thing began, I think some revenue would have started coming in. The real gigs were there.
yeah, yeah, you like suddenly, because this band had already been around, and I hadn't been part of a band for like 2 years already now. So I was only writing songs, and that was it. So then finally I got a chance, and then so some of the songs that we'd been writing, they became Chakravyuh songs, and you know I've got a couple of videos. If you check them out on my
Seen each and
YouTube
every one
channel,
of them, man.
Paresh.
All of them.
So anyway, this is for the listeners. So if you guys have a little extra time later on, you can go
Everybody
and check
should
these
watch
out. I put
those
up some.
videos. Everybody should also check out Dhruv's long hair. Dhruv Ganekar long hair. I
Yeah,
don't think you'll ever see them anywhere else, so do check those videos out. It's on Paresh's YouTube channel. Anyway, you were saying.
yeah, yeah. So then that was going on. That was going on really well for for a year. We played Independence Rock, and that was like a major thing that had happened over there. So we were playing Independence Rock. We were playing only original music. This is
Hmm.
1995, and we're playing in like, so there was all these other bands that were coming up and doing that. Keep on walking that road, and I'll follow. And
Yeah.
everyone's go yeah, and like smoke on the water, and then suddenly comes this band that's playing only
Hmm.
original music, and Ram Bhavan, where everyone's drunk out of their brains, and it's that Banjo, Banjo, Banjo. That shout is going on, and suddenly like undo,
Oh,
undo, and all those bad words, that heavy energy of like give me Metallica, give me hard, give me heavy,
yeah.
make me headbang. That and suddenly we're going up and playing original music and stuff like that, and it wasn't taken too well. So the people at the back, they were like hearing the music, and they were like saying like, "Wow, this is some good stuff," and all that. But the people in the front, they were like,
Band karo.
chucking bottles at us. And then Suraj, a vocalist, in he gets his brainwave, and he's telling the audience like, so you guys want to hear like you want to hear covers by the songs of these white bands. You guys like sucking white cock? Is that what it is? You guys like you love sucking white cock? Okay, okay, that's it. What do you want? And we started doing this stuff, and then the whole audience like went yeah, all of that. And anyway, so we made a mark with that. I think MTV was covering it, and we were like interviewed after all
Uh-huh.
this stuff, and it's probably in the archive somewhere. But like yeah, so these are this is around that time when like when people are going from like only wanting covers of
Hmm.
their favorite bands and gigs to okay, this is their original music. Let's hear this. So this we were some of the first among the first few bands that are trying to do only originals. And so that was happening, but eventually even that had to die down.
Yeah. When you joined Chakravyuh, did you already know Dhruv and his playing and his abilities? Were you already aware of it?
We were all friends, yeah, for many years before that.
Oh.
So when I was with Witchhammer, now I'm like a year or two older than Dhruv. So Dhruv and all these guys would be the kids. They'd be like going mad. we were doing Metallica, and these guys, and they would come after the gig, and they'd be like, "Man, you guys, wow!" And then we go somewhere and we get drunk. Oh, dude, they were like the most. And then we played in their school, Don Bosco. So Dhruv and Lindsay were like classmates, and Lindsay was like a little bit of a child prodigy. He started playing like drums, and he started playing it really well, and he was only 15, and so then we got him into Witchhammer, so he was playing with us. So he got us a show in like his school, Don Bosco. So all these kids, Dhruv and Siddharth Achrekar and all these guys, all I don't know, you wouldn't know these guys, some of them. So the old gang. So they were all there. So this was like a big gang of people that we became friends at that point, and we still are all these years later.
So I had moved to Bombay about 3.5, 4 years ago, and when I came here after a few months, luckily I got a gig with Dhruv, and we were gigging and doing his set, Dhruv Void's set together. So um, we had to rehearse for some gig, and Dhruv did not have a kit in his house or at the studio, so he said, "We'll rehearse at our house, and do you have a drum kit?" And he asked Andrew. Andrew said, "I can't get it, I don't have it," something like that, Andrew Kanga. So then I said, just call T2 and he'll drop the kit, because he rents a kit out. So now here's the thing, I know T2 separately, and I had immense respect for Dhruv Ganekar. Now T2 is somebody who I know from the bartender. We chill together, share rooms together, so I know him very closely. Now I'm new right now in Bombay. I don't know what's going on, and then T2 comes to Dhruv's house. We are all setting up, and he's talking so weirdly to Dhruv. Very weirdly, huh? This is about 3 years ago, and nobody knows about this. The story I'm remembering right now as I'm talking to you, that I'm thinking, man, why is he talking to him like that? I mean, he should have some minimum level of manners. I didn't know they're chuddy buddies and they've grown up together. I did not know forever. Later, sometime later, he told me that, me and Dhruv, we used to have a band together. And many years later, then I connected the dots. I said, okay, now I get it, why you were talking to him like that. And he was all smiling. Because Dhruv also doesn't respond like if you talk too hyper to him. He's going to respond in his calm, easy voice that, yeah, this and that and blah, blah, blah. So I was damn confused. I was like, what the hell is going on? But it's interesting to hear Chuck review, because before talking to you, I went back into all that time, all your videos, and I saw all that, and it's fantastic, man. The music is very nicely written. I mean, it's on no level, it's like, it doesn't sound a band which is from that era. It sounds like something which people have really, really put time into. And it was like that time, I think, because it was not just about making the next cover and putting up on YouTube. It involved a lot of things and a lot of time people could give, because there was nothing to binge on, essentially. So Chakriview was the band which was your first, I would say, jumping board. And then after that, what did you do after that?
So, as has been like the kind of the pattern with my life, after then Chakriview broke up in a year. In '96, Dhruv and Anand both started going their separate ways. Dhruv was, he was interested in doing advertising work, and he had less and less time for the band. And Anand, I think he had started working with Adi Pocha, and he was doing editing, and he was going on ad shoots, and they were getting involved in that. So then we had to break that band up as well, and it was sad. But then again, Lindsay, Suraj, Naresh. So Naresh had suddenly started playing bass at this time. He had because again, not being in a band at this time, and so he asked Anand. Anand's bass was lying around in the house because we were practicing at my place. So he asked Anand, "Can I play your bass?" And he said, "Yeah, go ahead and practice." And Anand had pretty much stopped playing music at this time.
So he had completely moved to video work from bass playing, completely.
Yeah, more or less, because they didn't have time for anything else. Because once you get onto ads and everything, you know how it is. You have to be on call at all times. You can't have any other life.
Hmm.
So that's basically what their lives became, Dhruv and Anand. Uh, so then Anand's base was lying at my house in Nirla, and Naresh, was just like, "What is this thing? Let me pick it up." And like a few hours into his practice, I came back into the room, and he was sounding like a bass player. Weirdly, like
Wow.
he just started playing dum 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 dum. Just the simplest kind
Yeah.
of, but his right hand, this thing dum dum dum, that kind of, like every time I'd go onto a bass, I'd be dum but it would never be like dum dum dum. That consistency wasn't there.
Hmm.
He had consistency, and I was like, that's weird. How do you have that? So he's like, I don't know, and like, so then he started, and then within a week he was playing like Red Hot Chili Peppers,
Wow.
and in a month he was like doing Gary Willis lines, and from Tribal Tech and everything. So everyone was like very confused as to what the heck was going on with this guy, like what steroids was he on and everything. So then he became a bass player. So then me, Lindsay and drums, and Suraj and vocals. We formed Spice Tribe,
Hmm.
this this band, and we ended up like playing 3 or 4 shows. We did one in Ram Bhavan, and again uh, this band was, again, it was like a new band. It wasn't going to make a lot of money, so we are back to where we had started, like trying to get like a little bit of money for a show. We played maybe 3 or 4 shows. It wasn't really going that well, but this is all we had. But so then what happened is, one time Spice Tribe was playing in Raspberry Rhinoceros. Dinsha Sanjana, my mentor, I call him my mentor, the Guruji.
The keyboard player.
This guy was,
Hmm.
yeah, the keyboard player. So for all who don't know, Dinsha Sanjana is this pioneer kind of guy. He had a band called Divya. He and Ranjit Barrett were like the Al Pacino and Robert De Niro of like music in the 80s in Bombay. So so anyway, Dinsha Sanjana. So he was there at a concert, and he was hanging out. And after the show got over, Vishal Dadlani, he was also at the gig. He says, "Hey man, Dinsha heard you guys, and he loves you all. He's outside. He wants to talk to you all. Come, let's meet you. Let me introduce
Hmm.
you." So he took me outside and introduced me to Dinsha Sanjana, and Dinsha was like 20 years older than us, and like someone be like legendary guy. And I was like, damn, it's Dinsha. So he was like, hey man, I really like that music you guys are making, and you guys are like good musicians. Yeah, why don't you come over and hang out with me, and maybe I can produce your album for you,
Wow.
this band, and let's produce some music. So I was like, right, bro, what are you saying, Dinsha Sanjana? So then we went to his studio a few days later to call the guys, and we hit it off really well. And he was like, man, come and let's jam. And then we'll be at his house pretty much every day jamming. And he was like, a much more senior and much more accomplished, and a learned musician than us. And so we'd go there every day, and he'd give us a little motive to learn, and then we practice that. And we slowly got initiated into Divya, and Naresh, Lindsay, and me, we became the new members of Divya,
Hmm.
his fusion outfit.
So this music was kind of technically challenging because I couldn't find much of material of Dinsha, but I heard just one song. It's some, I think some club outside India, and a lineup from outside is playing. Not able to remember the people's names, but it's just really, really fantastic musicians, man. The sax player, the drummer. What's the name of that drummer who he was playing with mostly? Matthew something?
Uh, so there was this album called G Wiz. I don't know if you've heard G Wiz. That was the album where Dinsha and Ranjit had recorded some of the tracks that we later played with
Okay.
Divya. So
No, this was a live.
I don't know
This
if
is a
you.
live thing I was seeing. So Ranjit wasn't playing, but you carry on. Tell about the
Okay, so
album.
there was Bondo. Bondo was his drummer uh, from Goa, incredible percussion player and drummer. So when Dinsha and Ranjit weren't playing anymore, when Dinsha formed Divya, there was Bondo on drums, and I forget the bass player. There was Shernil, I think it was Shernil Matthias or something on bass. and there was Shankar Mahadevan, and there was those there was a Madras gang. Yeah, there was Sridhar playing, Parthasarthi playing mridangam, and there was Shankar Mahadevan on vocals. There was Roy Venkatraman on guitars, and there was Bondo on drums, and everything was a mad lineup. They had this album called Madras
Hmm.
Cafe. I should try and source it out from somewhere. So
Yeah, the Wikipedia thing talks about it because Sandhya Sanjana, she I think used to sing in that.
yeah.
So because Dinsha's page is not there, but it's mentioning that album, and I'll try find it out also. I mean, if I can figure that out. So you were in Divya then, and then after that.
No, so so like Divya is like a major milestone in our lives because we were pretty much like street kids picked up by like these
मैं
aristocratic
तुम्हें
families.
अमीर बनना सिखाऊंगा.
Yeah, आप अभी Paris, New York, London जाएंगे. So we ended up like going to places like like jazz festivals, and like hanging out with like like Alec Padamsi, and it was like at Dinshah's house in Cuff Parade. We would go there every day and like rehearse, and like all kinds of people would land up over there. We'd be hanging out with like Danny McGill and all this kind of these people, and a much older crowd. And yeah, so then that really like helped us musically, because he finally put us on a stage where people will be checking us out, and it was up to you how you took it from there. Like if you made an ass of yourself, you're making an ass of yourself forever, because these guys would remember. Or you could go up and play your ass off, and like and like suddenly have this new audience and people to appreciate it.
But that's the discomfort. That's the spot that makes you grow, right, as a musician, or whatever changes that have to happen chemically in your brain, in your presence, in your persona. I think that's the only way, because there is something scary about it. There's that fear of humiliation. There is this fear that I'm not trained enough, and a gazillion questions. And somehow, musicians, we keep thinking that if I do XYZ enough at home, it'll all be fine on stage. Yes and no, but when you attempt something for the first time uh, on stage, it happens for the first time on stage. And there is this fearful journey that everybody goes through, I believe. Like, I had been trying to play Amazing Grace by Victor Wooten live, and I fell on my face about 3 times. Like, just didn't come out. Did I play it enough at home? Yes, I did. But when I was on there and on a spotlight, and then these things start kicking in, your hands start shaking. You know where the time is, but you still can't execute it because you have to go through all that. It doesn't mean that you won't be able to play it, but just I think the route that you're talking about is just the method of ultimate growth for any musician, that you have to put yourself out there. You have to be okay with that fear kicking in. And then of course, now after years of playing, that whenever when you would have made your first Hypnotribe song, it was the first time you were playing your song, rapping on stage for the first time. That experience
Yeah.
of last 20, 25 years goes on a pause. Those fresh nerves, they start kicking in, and you're like, okay, I'm feeling it. But now, because somebody like you have done it so many times, you know the process now, that it goes through that path of fear. It goes through that whole self-doubt little bit, that I don't know if it's going to come out, it's not going to come out. But then you do it a few times, then it comes together. I think that's what mentors mostly do, that they put you in a spot that, hey, take a
Yeah.
solo, jump into it, and then we'll see what happens.
You're completely right. Everything you said was completely right, man. So here we were on the stage, and like just before playing my guitar solo, I'm looking at the audience and I see Roy Venkatraman and Carl like looking at each other and talking to each other. No, I should have seen that. Now, like like I'm only thinking about that now. Like, dude, what note am I going to play like that's going to blow them away? Like, like, and I'm like playing a note, and I'm like, no, damn, like, admonishing myself in my head while I'm playing all these things. So I've gone through all that, man. It's really, you know, but luckily for me, I think I'm like kind of, I don't know, probably blessed with a little bit of, what would I call it? A little bit of an ego, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Blessed. I don't know if I can call it blessed, but there's something that, like yeah, it just helps me in times like this, like where to get over that mental
Mm-hmm.
block, the sense that like okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and gonna play it anyway,
Yeah.
like I'm not stop myself, I'm not gonna like have any second thoughts about it because I just saw Carl Peters and Roy Venkatraman like like kind of looking at me and then like kind of like turning to each other and saying something like oh damn, they're talking about how bad a guitarist I am. So I could go down that path and like completely like think like, man, it's never gonna happen,
Mm.
but I guess if you keep chipping away at it, you keep chipping away at your craft and like staying within the parameters of what you know and not like saying like, okay, damn, I'm going to play like the biggest jazz guitar solo when you're not really a jazz guitar player, in front of people. Where if you try and like step out of what you've practiced and like start going down another route altogether, then there are more chances of you like messing it up completely. And so with me, I would always like kind of like practice like what I would want to play on stage rather than like say going up and down scales the
Right.
whole time,
Right.
like because you could say like, okay, I can break down the song and say like it's got these three scales that I'll have to like this scale comes in when this change happens and then this change, this scale and that scale, and you could practice the heck out of those scales and then go on stage and still not have anything to say,
Mm.
where like like yeah, solo is it's not a scale, it's not like a bunch of scales put together, it's not a bunch of it's a motive that you keep developing, and the listener, while they kind of like going along with you, it's like you've taken uh, uh, like say a segment of a story and now you're going to elaborate on that little segment, so like you have to do it that way, and playing within yourself and like and say making statements rather than like blabbering,
Yeah.
and say like saying a paragraph when a statement could have sufficed, like how I'd say that is like a paragraph could be a lot of notes,
Hmm.
like just a stream of notes, like or like a statement which is like a surmise of all those notes, like and then let that silence, like just because of the tension you built up with that thing that you said, the silence after that is like, ah, it feels so good, and then you come up with the next thing. So I've always tried to think on those lines rather than like like carpet to carpet, like 16th notes or
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, what I'm hearing
So
from you is that when, like, you trying to be as honest as you can with the execution of what you're thinking, it needs to be on the same page rather than putting it that next hip scale. But if you don't hear it, you would rather prefer not play it. You would rather prefer that you're playing something that you are hearing, and all those feelings that
yeah,
you get. Okay, I saw Carl in the audience, now what am I going to do? I i like the fact that you have a challenge to it. So your challenge
yeah,
is, I'm going to play it anyway. I'm going to play what I play, and you're challenging it constantly with honesty, that I'm going to stay honest to how much ever I know. If I make small statements, I'll do that. If I want to make longer statements, I will do that, and we'll figure out what they say later. But this is a thing that there's this thing I keep talking about, even to a bunch of students that I have. I do these consultations with some people who have some doubts or questions, so they write me an email or something like that. I do a little 20-minute session, talk to them what's going on. It's not really a lesson, it's just a quick thing that they need help with something. So there's this guy telling me, I want to master the fretboard. I said, I get it, but what are you going to do with it? He said, I don't know. Everybody says you should master the fretboard. I said, I get it. I still get it. That everybody says it. But what are you going to do with it? Just want to know that. I'm curious. Then he said, but Anthony Wellington shows this method where you can memorize all the modes by doing this permutation. He wrote me some permutation, sent it across. I said, I still get it. I can see the shapes and all, but what are you doing with it? And he said, I never thought about it. I know these permutations now. I know where which mode exists, and I can play it everywhere I want to play. But I never thought about what am I going to do with it. I was so involved with this whole thing that I have to learn this, I have to master the fretboard. But then when I talk to, you know, if I'm talking to Sanjay, talking to you, the approach is completely different. You are talking about that this is the world of notes available. Now, what is the story to be made with these set of notes? It's way useful to practice C major scale, making stories rather than practicing it as an up and down thing. And even, Gino was telling the story where Karan, at a workshop, somewhere they were in Colombia or something, showed, people asked him, what do you practice? And he would start playing. He would start showing how he practices a scale, and people are looking for an exercise, that do you go up, down, do you do this in 12 keys? And he, end of the day, just started demonstrating, if he plays Amazing Grace, what he does with that. And he says that it's still in C major, and I'm doing this to that to that. And you know the level of musicianship he was at. His approach was all, how do we take this and make music with this? And we keep moving forward faster, faster, and making statements, beautiful statements out of it. That I really find interesting, because there have been times I've been walking around your building and I hear these backing tracks and I hear these da-da, and then, but other musicians also stay in the buildings, right? Sometimes I wonder, but then I realize
Yeah.
it's you, because I kind of know the way you're gonna hit it. I I know it's gonna have a vibe, and I know what time of the day it'll be. It'll be this sunset time that things are chilling out. It's kind of getting dark outside, and then you're at your element and doing all the beautiful things. I really really enjoy. So please carry on. You play that solo. You were in that band, and
Yeah. So
story goes on.
yeah. So we were while we were talking, you were talking about like how solos, like how do you approach a solo rather than all the notes that are available to you, or what are you trying to say, and things like that. So it's really important. It's the way you practice. Like what you practice is what you end up playing. So this is like a tip, I guess, for musicians. Whatever you practice, you're going to end up playing on stage. So be careful of what you're practicing. So, or you could take it this way, like, what do you want to sound like? Start practicing to be that. So if you have an aim in mind, like you think like, I want to be a more melodic player. So then, like stop going up and down scale and start trying to, play what you're thinking in your head, and like maybe sing, sing out the notes that you're going to play, and try and get like a, try and align those two things, your what you're doing with your hands and what you singing in your head. Now that's one way of doing it. And always have a motive, like if you're starting off with a motive, um, like if you start off like the first few notes solo are going to be like, then like damn, you're going to have to keep on going down that. No, it's like that's the first part that snowball took. Now it's just going to have to go at that speed, and it's in fact going to have to gain more, and it's become like you start a movie with like a earthquake. Like how are you going to build this up to a climax? Now what's the climax going to be like? The whole universe exploding or something like that. So those are not really realistic ways of approaching a solo and things like that. But you look at someone like John Mayer, you listen to someone like BB King, like any of the people that people are listening to and love. It's always like the most simple thing. Uh, it's just like the simplest thing ever, and the way they play it, each of them could play it, and they'll all sound different. The inflection that they give it, that same lick, uh, and when you hear it, you'll immediately, like just hearing a couple of like notes, you'll know who it is. And why is that? It's because they've got their voice, and uh, it's like it's not the scales that they're playing, it's not like the amount of notes that they've put in. It's a certain rhythm, it's a certain vibe, it's a certain
Yeah.
ठहराव, जैसे they say like certain holding back, or things like that, and you hear that and you know it's them. And I think that's really like, so when you said like you're passing by and you know that there are a bunch of musicians in this thing, but you know that it's me that's playing, for me, like, dude, that's victory, man. That's amazing. That's, imagine someone can like hear you and they know it's you, for good or for bad, like oh man, that's that guy again. So it could be that, but but anyway, I think that's really cool. Like for a musician to, it's them. It's there's something about it that's so them.
That's right.
Uh, yeah.
So Divya gives you a nice foundation, gives you a nice jumping board again to go further. And this is the time Bombay Black happens after this, or there's more happening in the middle that you went through.
Yeah, so no, Divya, we carried Divya on for 2 years, but in I think it was 98, the beginning of 98 or something like that. Um, the founding members of Divya, that's Dinsha and Sandhya, who were married at that time, they separated, and then they both, Dinsha went off to LA. He started his life in LA there, and Sandhya went off to Amsterdam to start her life there. So then that band was over.
Mhm.
Uh, so, but at this time, I had we had so the indie pop thing had started like happening majorly. So Shan and Sagarika were looking for a band,
Mhm.
and their manager Martin somehow got in touch with us, and he called me, and so I took Naresh and Kurt along with me, and we started becoming like the backing band for Shan and Sagarika. This is in
Mhm.
'98. So yeah, then that was like the storm, because we were like gigging and gigging and gigging and gigging. Like that was all we were doing. We were playing like a lot of gigs all over the place. Um, so we went off to like Europe, and then we went off to like different places in the Gulf and the Southeast and places that in the and we started playing indie pop, man. We were playing like all those old R.D. Burman tunes, and we were doing 6/8
Uh-huh.
medleys. So musically, it wasn't a very good time, man. It was like I probably died a little bit inside somewhere, you know, because I'd just been in a jazz band, and like 2 years of like uh, musical growth, which was going that way. Like it was just like if it was a chart, it was going that way. It was just like everything was just like uh, up and up and up and up. And I was like handling new concepts. Carl Clemens was a sax player
Hmm.
with Divya, and he became like one guru to me, because he started like like I'd go to him sometimes, like when we had an hour to kill or something like that post lunch. So I'd sit with him and I'd tell him like, show me something, man. I want to. And so then he would like sit with me, and he'd give me like an hour's lecture on harmony or like chromaticism or something like that, and it'd all go flying over my head, but I'd be like, slow down, slow down, slow down. I'd write some of it down, and then he'd make like a small little chart for me on a piece of paper, and this was going on, and I'd been applying myself, and like my ears were like like ready, they were absorbing a lot of things, and I was feeling very creative, and at the same time, the carpet got like pulled from under us when Divya, broke up, and so this was like a welcome thing for me, like to be playing with Shan and Sagrika. God bless them, man. Shan still hadn't come out with Loveology. No, he had come out with Loveology at that time, and that was a big hit. And he and Sagarika had some, hits with
Mm.
Biddu,
What
and
lovely names, no? Like,
yeah. So it was that time. And so like from being like minus one, they were singing minus one here and there. So they suddenly like thought like now it's time to get serious, get a band and things like that. So Lucky Ali had just come on the scene, and he had come out with Suno. Uh, I think that was his first album, right? So and he had got a band, and Martin was Ali's
mhm.
manager as well, and so he worked on Shan and Sagrika, and made them realize that they needed a band as well, and so then we were the band, and that journey started at
Nice.
then,
So when
so.
did they transition that they
Uh,
decided, okay, now the indie scene is over and now we have to move on and we need to shut this thing as Shan and Sagarika, and Shan went his own way, of course, singing into Bollywood. When did that happen? This was around the late 90s?
Yeah, so 98 is when we got in with them. At this time, Shan he hadn't become like all the way a big star because he hadn't yet sung in Bollywood. he was only doing the indie pop thing. He had Loveology, then he had some songs with Biddu, and but like everyone knew of these guys. He also had that Q Funk. You know, there was a song. Anyway, this is all like some mad stuff that was going on in the 90s. So then while we were gigging and doing this stuff, then he came out with
Yeah.
Tanha Dil, and then he also sang Musu
Yeah.
Musu Hasi from Pyar Mein Kudi. And he became like an overnight sensation. Then he started singing like all these Bollywood uh, songs, and then he became really big. Sagarika was already talking about how she didn't want to be part of this whole thing, and she just wanted, a quiet life, and she didn't want to be this pop star and everything like that. So she was already checking out of it, and then she, got married to Martin, uh, and then they wanted to start a family and everything like that. So she was already on her way out at this time. I'm talking about
Hmm.
98, 99, and in about 2000, Shan and Sagarika were still doing gigs, but Shan was obviously the star, and no one really knew Sagarika that much. And I think at this point, maybe even Sagarika was like, totally done with music. She didn't want to be in it anyway, and it was obviously a little bit of a fast to call it Shan and
Hmm.
Sagarika, uh, so I think at this time, about this point, Sagarika also, didn't want to carry on playing gigs and everything like that. And we had already started Bombay Black. So while this is going on, to get my like musical fulfillment and everything like that, uh, we had it wasn't called Bombay Black at the time, but it was Homegrown. So that was me,
Oh yeah, yeah,
Naresh,
I know.
and Kurt.
I can't find that video again. That Z TV video. I don't know
I'm
where
glad
it's
you can't,
lost.
man,
Wh-
and I hope no one can find that video. I hope the person who put that up is, removed that video and
Well, it's
never puts it
a
up again.
snapshot of your life at that point of time.
Yeah, but you know what happens is, right? Like, okay, I got see here. I have a podium and a
Tell people
platform to
what happened,
explain
yeah, because we
that
are talking
video.
about something that's not out there, but please explain what happened that day.
Okay, so this is about 1999. So me, Naresh, Kurt, and Rinku, keyboard player Rinku, we have a band called Homegrown. And I get a call from this friend of mine who's working with ZTV, something like that. And there was that Saregama pa thing that used to go on that time, singers competition. She gives me a call and she says like, "Hey, we're doing this thing. It's a band competition now. It isn't about the singers. It's about a band, and this is international, and it's a fusion band competition. Would you like to take part?" I was like, "That's what I do, man. Yeah, it's international. Let's do it." So I'm imagining like there are going to be bands from really like.
Paresh, wait, I lost you. Just hold on, if you can hear me. Guys, just a second. I'm going to reconnect with Paresh and we'll get back to this in a second. Paresh, can you hear me? Yo, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you now. So let's start from where this lady calls you and tells you that it's an international band competition. And then what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, so we went for this audition and we played some of our homegrown tunes. One of them was Cherapunji. If you remember this, we put it out on the first Bombay Black album. And then we played those tunes. They loved us and they told us, yeah, you're in the final. You have to land up at this venue on such and such date, and we'll give you a little bit of a heads up. We'll tell you what you have to do and everything like that. We didn't get any heads up. We landed up at this venue on a certain day, and we get there, and it's a studio, like one of those, those sets. And on the set, there's this band that's playing before us, and they're playing like Bollywood covers, bro. They're going like dang 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 ha 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 ha. They're doing all that stuff, and the audience nuts, yeah, they're all going nuts, and everyone's dancing. They all know the tunes, and they're playing only like the most Gisa-pita Bollywood covers, and they're doing it exactly like the guitar player is getting that ting ting ting, that weird
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
high pitched.
Yeah. The
guitar tone,
Grayson guitar
and
tone.
yeah, and the keyboard player is doing all those string lines, da 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 da, and it's just we landed up with this place, and we're like, what the heck? International fusion competition? This is not. But anyway, and then they give us a thing like a paper which had like a format of the
Hmm.
competition. Like you guys are going to be playing 5 songs. One of them is going to be a Bollywood cover. One of them is going to be a Bollywood song of your choice.
Huh.
One of them Bollywood song of their everything was Bolly, 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 Bolly. Like and we're like, what the? We haven't prepared any Bollywood, man. What the heck is this?
Yeah.
We only prepared our own original songs and stuff like that. So here we are, man, and then like man, so like I was like, see, listen. So then we had this backstage meeting. I'm like, listen, we're gonna go up there and we're gonna try some Bollywood song and we're gonna mess it up and it's gonna be telecast and we're gonna look like idiots. So let's not look like idiots. Let's go there and forget this whole Bollywood format. We'll go ahead and play only our set exactly the way we plan to do
Huh.
it. Whatever we do, we'll go and play that exactly the way we want to do it. And because if it gets telecast and we're playing some Bollywood song, we're looking like terrible, it'll be even worse. We're like, it's double
Yeah.
bad. At least this way, go up on thing, we look good at least. But sorry, we couldn't win the competition. You were not right for the competition, and we still go with our dignity
Yeah.
intact. So that was we went there and then we played all our fusion tracks and everything like that. And guess what? We won the competition outright. Like they were like, "This is no." That was the semifinals. Then we got taken into the finals,
Yeah.
and the finals it was more of the same. We just played our own music and everything like that, and we won that competition. So I don't know why this is relevant in this conversation by any way, but like I thought I should put it in there. But yeah, so there was, you know, there was Shan Sagarika going on. There was this thing going on. There was this is homegrown, and at the same time, JD, my friend JD, was a
Bass
bass
player. Yeah.
player. Yeah, so he calls up and says like, "Hey man, this cousin of mine is part of this event called Big Day Out, and it's in Melbourne, and he's asking for demos, man. If you have any demo songs and everything like that, he wants to get one of us. Like, he thinks he can get us a slot in this Big Day Out festival. So let's send him some
This
songs.
happens in
So we made
Australia, the big day out.
yeah,
Okay.
the Big Day Out. It's a festival. I don't know if it's still going on, but that time in the late '90s, it was like a major. It was like the Glastonbury of
Hmm.
Melbourne. So anyway, so we sent a compilation of songs that he had been working on. I'd been working on. That was the homegrown songs. Randolph had been working on some songs. Lindsay and Abhijit had been working on some songs. JD had been. We put this in one CD and we called it Bombay Black and we sent it to him. And that became the album Bombay Black. So Amit Segal from Rocksteady Journal came over to my house. Whenever he came to Bombay, he used to
Hmm.
call and used to shoot the breeze together and everything. So he came over and I told him like, "Hey man, listen to this," and I played it, and uh, and he was like, "What the heck is this? This is damn good. This is you guys." I was like, "Yeah, this is us guys." Saying, "Let me release it for
Hmm.
you, man." I was like, "Really? What do you mean?" He says, "Yeah, like so we're doing this thing where with the December issue we release a cassette. We've been doing this thing, so this December issue, let me release Bombay Black." And I was like, yeah. So we became a band, man, overnight. So like from sending some music over to the guys at Big Day Out in Australia, from that we suddenly became Bombay Black, a band.
It's a really cool set, man. I mean, I heard part of the one of the albums, the album one. That's what you call it, right? And the one
Yeah.
1999 to 2000, and it's incredible. And the way Lindsay, JD are flying on it, it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's just amazing. It really pulls you, and it doesn't sound like, again, it doesn't sound like that time to me, to my ears. It sounds like right now.
Just a second. Sir, phone name.
So it sounds like right now. It sounds like that it's been made now and it's music for today. So when you took Bombay Black to gigs, because it's music people can really dance to, did you get a lot of praise about it? That because I'm sure people got really involved, even if they did not know the original music, but the way it's being driven all the time, that you can come, you can have a party with this band. Did it get known like that at that point of time?
So after we released it, only the musicians knew who it was. That it was us guys, because it was this very generic Bombay image, and it was Bombay Black, and it was a bunch of songs at the back,
Hmm.
and it was mainly instrumental, and it was very like different from whatever any of the other bands were doing. It was kind of electronic, but also there's guitars, and it was also flute and like some Indian instruments, tabla, and it was all like. It sounded like what was going on at that time. Like there was a bunch of music coming out, like Buddha Bar, where it
Hmm.
was just like rock music, it wasn't just dance music. It was like an amalgamation of sounds, and like the chill out thing was beginning to happen at that time. So a lot of people didn't know it was these kids, these guys. So like I remember meeting people, they were like, we'd have these conversations. We'd be like, hey man, check out, give me recommend some music to me and all, no? And these guys would
Huh.
tell me, have you checked out Bombay Black, man? You should check out Bombay Black. I'd be like, yeah, who's Bombay Black? So man, these guys from Amsterdam, bro, like these
Amsterdam.
musicians. Yeah, everyone had their own idea of what Bombay Black was, and they'd be telling me, man, so this guys from Amsterdam, they've been making this music, and I was really cool, man. Check it out and all. And then you should also check out this and check out that. But this happened to me a couple of times, and I'd be
Yeah,
like, I
one
wouldn't
one
even
day,
tell.
man, somebody was trying to sell some CDs, a pack of DVDs actually, and it's still that time, and it was from Times Music, and he was a Times Music guy, and he's going door to door to make sales, and he said, "I'm selling some CDs." I said, "Okay, no problem. Just tell me what you have." He said, "I have this CD from this amazing Italian piano player." I said, "Who is it?" "Louis Banks." I said, "Okay, keep talking. I'm listening." I didn't want to laugh then and there, but I kept it inside. I said, the guy doesn't know, but he wants to make a sale, and he knows that Indian stuff won't sell, or he just doesn't know what he's selling. So it was pretty interesting. Similar thing used to happen. Like Bombay Black is from Amsterdam, and then so people were recommending this to you, and
Yeah.
then what was happening?
So then, because of this, and so then Amit Sehgal put that he used to put out this compilation called
Hmm.
Great Indian Rock. So yeah, so let me just take this to
No
another
problem.
direction. One second. Try to get the.
No problem, man.
Sorry, one
I have
second.
switched the camera to my screen. You take your time.
Yeah, to put the power on the computer.
No
It is
worries.
showing low battery. So yeah, so Bombay Black is happening at this time, and Amit Sehgal takes one of our songs from the Bombay Black album and he puts it on this compilation called GIR. It's a Great Indian Rock, and so a song called Kashmir from the Bombay Black One album. He puts it out on that thing, and so that leads to like us taking part in the Great Indian Rock competition at the end of the year, the winners of which will get this secret prize. And Levi's is involved, and it's going to be a major prize apparently. Like we're going to go abroad somewhere and open for some major band or something like that. So this
Hmm.
was all told to us. So Bombay Black, because we were part of that compilation, we were part of the competition also, because all the bands on that compilation would compete against each other. One would win. So we went ahead and we played
Hmm.
and we won. And we got a chance to. We were told that we were going to open for the Red Hot Chili Peppers in LA in 2000, in August 2001. We were like, but that got changed. We ended up going to LA and opening, but not for the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but for
Wow,
Aerosmith.
that's incredible. You hung out with those guys? You didn't.
No, we didn't get a chance to hang out with them. Yeah, like their techies would come and do sound check, and all we weren't granted access to that part of the stage, and they're the bigger,
Uh,
much bigger, like much, and we're
yeah,
like
man.
these nobodies, rats.
This is pure
So
rock star vibe.
so yeah. So anyway, but we got to open for them in LA in San Bernardino, And while we were there, the organizer says, "Hey, so tomorrow the same venue is going to be this Inland Invasion Festival. Some of the bands playing over there, all those new metal bands, it was Incubus and Offspring, and Mike D from the Beastie Boys is playing, and like it's a big bunch of bands. Some of them I don't remember because those bands aren't there anymore. But I remember Incubus and Offspring, and we opened on the second day as well. So Bombay Black ended up playing like two shows at the same venue on two separate days, and that happened in 2001. And this was like a few days before the 9/11 blast happened.
Wow.
In blast, the incident happened with those twin towers and those plane crashes and everything. So we were in LA at this time, and we were supposed to get out of LA and come back to Bombay on that day, and that twin tower, that thing happened. So all of us, the whole Bombay Black, had to stay back in LA with like all the few dollars that we had remaining. We had to stay in LA for like 15 more days before the airports were opened again.
My God.
Uh,
And
yeah,
LA is very expensive, anyways.
it was really expensive. Luckily, we all had like someone we knew that we could stay over with. So Dinsha Sanjana, who was in LA at this time,
Hmm.
my mentor. So I gave him a call and I ended up staying with him for a few days, for like 2 weeks. And yeah, he was really sweet. He put us up over there. And yeah, so
It's fantastic. So,
this is 2000.
and this
Yeah.
this goes on into Kailasa straight away after this.
So right after this, after we came back from LA, uh, now there's we basically like so we were again Bombay Black wasn't like getting a lot of gigs and a lot of moneyed gigs as such. We were just like this party kind of band that would come and play at like a party or something like that, and everyone would dance on the tables and everything like that. But it wasn't like a big band that would get a lot of money to play gigs or anything like that. It was just a very well-known band in Bombay, and everyone would turn up when we played. So there was still that issue of like trying to make money, trying to make our own music, trying to you know do the fulfill the potential or whatever. And and at this time, okay, so let me take it back a
Mm-hmm.
few years. I'll take it to 1996. I was in Chennai, and I was with Dinsha and Sandhya, and we were going to play at this festival in Chennai, which was over 2 days, and every pop star at that time, like everybody, Shweta Shetty was there, Daler Mendi was there was Baba Sehgal, and this one and that one, everybody was there. Okay? So we had gone there to this festival to hear the people, and Daler Mendi was going to be coming on, and we were in the audience, me, Naresh, and Lindsay, and they were like, let's check out this guy. He was famous for Tunak Tunak Tun Tunak Tunak Tun,
Hmm.
So in my head, it was just this the guy who could do those kind of things, not to be taken seriously or
Oh, he's
whatever.
real, man.
Yeah, so I had no idea, and I went, and this guy comes up, and the first thing he does is his alap, man. The guy is holding a chord down for him, and he goes, like doing his alap. No way! And I was like, this guy can do that. I had no idea. Like, so I was like, man, but why is he making this kind of music though? Like, he can do that, but he's doing tunak tunak tun. That's a pity, man. Like, I was like, if I ever get a singer like this, I'll do a Led Zeppelin kind of album with him, man. I'll make like, a band like Led Zeppelin where this guy can do that, and we can make this grand music around him. It'll last forever, and everybody will say what a legend. Rather than doing this tunak tunak tun tunak where everyone's dancing and then forget about him, like when the hangover's over. So, so that's in my head. I was like, why is he choosing to do this, the Dalir Mendi? So I was like, okay, who am I to question this and everything? So then when I came back from LA, just give me a sec
No
again,
problem. No problem, man.
Mama. Okay, so
That's okay. I switched the
sorry.
cameras. Don't worry about it.
So okay, so then when I came back, I was already working in like as a producer by this time, and there's this guy called Nitin
Mm-hmm.
Raikwad. Nitin Raikwad, who the guy who had written these songs, Aati Ke Khandala, and if you remember that
Nitin,
song,
like,
Aati
he's the
Ke
lyricist for
Khanda,
all these songs, or he composed them.
he composed all the songs. He composed all of them, but he didn't get the credit for them, as is the norm in Bollywood. He didn't go as a music director; someone else did. But he was the guy who wrote that song. everything, like the way Amir Khan vocalizes it, or nahi to kya,
Huh.
that all this kind of the way. That's exactly Nitin Raikol. Anyways, I was working with this guy on some songs, and one day Nitin Raikol comes in with this other guy who's sitting down quietly on the sofa while we were discussing the song and making changes to it. And this guy at the back calls me up a couple of days later and he says, "Hey, you remember I had come with Nitin the other day?" So I was like, "Yeah." He says, "So I have this singer that I'm working with. We're making an album. It's an album of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan
Hmm.
covers. Would you like to produce it? I think like you guys have a kind of sound that I know will work. Do you think you want to meet this guy and like work on some music?" So I said, "I don't want to meet him. Just send me some music. Let me hear it and see if it's worth a while or whatever." So he sends me a CD, and the CD, there's this singer who sung PRA and Ishka Rutba by Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. And me and Naresh, like made some music over it and we sent it back to them. He made it like really
Yeah.
electronic and like, really hip and not, because his voice was like really like earthy and stuff like that. And we sent it back to them. And the guy calls me up and he says, "What the heck is this? This is beautiful. Let's let's work this and all that." And we're like, "Yeah, okay." So let's do this for real. And we went and met the record company guy. And he, like, we signed and everything, and like, "Yeah, we're going to do this album and everything like that." I hadn't met the singer as yet. And then we go into the studio to record the first song. And I'm sitting in the studio. We had asked the singer to come at 5:30 or whatever it was, but we had settled a time. And I was there at that time, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And there was a bunch of people in the studio that I was talking to, and we were shooting a shit. But the singer hadn't turned up, so I'm like asking them finally, like, "So, yaar, ye Kailash kahan
Huh.
hai?" And this small little guy with this meek voice says, "Swayam मैं कैलाश हूँ." You? That's when I first met Kailash.
Yeah, cause we have this perception that
Yeah. So
if you're hearing that big a voice, and you're hearing it off a CD, you're looking for somebody maybe 6 feet tall or something like that.
yeah, because those suggestions of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan had been put in my
Hmm.
head, and because a Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan song, so I'm thinking like, okay, it's probably some guy sitting down and like screaming over here, but his normal voice is probably like, "Hey," or whatever. That's in my head. That was what's going on. And I met this guy who was like still small and like little, didn't look like a
Hmm.
singer, very unassuming, and was just hanging out over there and absolutely like super humble, no attitude, no nothing, and that was Kailash. So that was the first time I met him, and then we started making this music together. Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan cover songs, and apparently Kailash had been like he knew everyone. He had been going to Salim's studio. He had been going to Ranjit's studio. He had been going to someone else's studio. He had, but they didn't know him because he would go as Sultan Khan's
Okay.
Shagird. The guy who's pressing his feet while he's in the studio, like, Sarangi. The guy would get him his water, who'd settle this thing. Kailash was
Huh.
that guy. So he would go to all the studios, there with, but everyone like kind of overlooked him, because he was Sultan
Yes.
Khan. So that was, and so like suddenly then we were working with him and recording him, and suddenly like Salim would come to my house and I'd play him this thing, and he'd be like, "Wow, what is that? Who's the singer?" And we'd like, "Kailash Kher, this new guy and everything." And then Kailash would be like, "I know you. I've come to your studio." He would tell Salim, and then the guys we were working with, they would go around telling everybody like, "Hey man, there's this new singer these guys are working with, a guy called Kailash." So Vishal calls up Kailash for a demo to sing Allah Ke
Hmm.
Bande, and because Rabbi Shergill was supposed to be the main singer for that song, but Kailash went and did the demo. Everybody loved the demo,
Wasn't it that
and in the end,
Channel V had a deal with Rabi to release every song first on Channel V, then so he could not do it because of that? Was it something like that? That's what I think Naresh told last time, that he is supposed to make a song, it should be first played on Channel V, but this is for a movie, so it can't happen like that. So then it got moved on to Kailash Kher.
but it could still play on Channel V even if that's for the movie, because that would be the promotional thing,
Hmm.
right? Before the movie releases, they could maybe given a week to Channel
So
V
maybe
first,
I'm
and
mixing up stories.
but I'm no, but it could be true. It could be, there must be something to that story, because Rabbi, even though you're supposed to sing that song, they, before. they made Shashank Ghosh who was directing it, just to like give him a demo of the song. They had Kailash sing,
Hmm.
and Kailash sang it, and it was like, man, that was it. Like, they didn't want to hear anybody else on that song anymore because he sang it so well. So that launched Kailash as a singer, and he became a big singer. And we were working together on music together. So we started getting calls to come and like sing at Femina Miss India, come and do this song in the middle. We have a 2 minute slot. Why don't you come and sing over there? Or like this Lakme Fashion Week, or like IFA. So you'd get like small little slots to come and sing Allah Ke Bande at these
Right now,
places. So I'd go
I'm
along with him.
noticing that there's a lot like wherever our Prime Minister Modi is doing any kind of an event, it's just that it's almost like, does he say that I want Kailash Kher for the gig and you guys go and perform? Because it's almost been in synchronicity with all his events now.
Yeah, we've like gone to San Francisco, and we've like played at his homecoming thing over there when he had won the elections in 2014. Then here and there. So Kailash is he's part of the, what do you call it, the Navratan or something like that. He keeps saying it at our gig. So apparently he's like, because he got took part of that Swachh Bharat mission and
Hmm.
everything like that. So he's a spokesperson for the
Okay.
BJP now, and he does songs, like for them, for the election rallies, and you know, Bharat Ke Veer. If there's something, a song to be made for the Jawans and things. I don't know that connection. That's Kailash and the BJP, but we're part of the Kailasa, the band, so we end up going and playing at all these
Yeah,
places. So, yeah,
I hear you.
another can of worms, though.
No, I was wondering because I hear
Anyway.
stories from Jovian also, and how sometimes because of the security arrangements, you guys have to wait for hours and hours, which is nobody's mistake, but it's just that the arrangements are such when somebody like the Prime Minister of the country is there. So you guys end up spending, gazillion number of hours just sound checking, and when it's not needed, you can't move because Trump had come. That's also another place you guys played, right? When Trump had come.
Yeah, Ali, that the famous one at in Ahmedabad when he had come down. We played at that one, and
So,
yeah, there's nothing much
so
to be
when
said about
Dolan
it
Trump
except
happened, you were there.
we played at that event. I was there, man. We could see Dolan from you could see
No, when
Dolan
he
was
said
there,
it,
and
when it came out
there
of
was
his mouth, you
this
were there.
uh, I wasn't paying attention at that time because we were like because they'd asked us to play like, okay, you guys play like this 45-minute set, and then after the speeches you play another 15-minute set and everything like that. And at that time these people will be making their way out and the audience will remain, and that was the thinking. And you guys the cavalcade for Modi and leave and stuff like that. So
I
yeah,
would
we
have.
were there, and that was one of the situations again where we felt trapped. We played at Antila also a couple of times where we felt the same. You know,
Yeah, there I talked to, even I've been there a couple of times, 3, 4 times, and like it's too much like to be unnecessarily waiting after your work is done. And even I was talking to Sanam the other day, they were saying the same thing, that it's just that the rules are such because of security or whatever it is, that you finish the gig, then you're stuck somewhere inside the house only. You can't leave because whatever number of people are there. But I think they'll have to figure out some way around it, because it becomes very hard once you've done all that work, you've played for 2 hours, then you're sitting in a corner for no reason at all. That just becomes a
yeah.
little too much.
Well, that's they don't give a shit. Like these people, they don't. It's the truth, man. Might as well just say it right now. My daughter is making faces at me because she doesn't like me using profanity, but so anyway, so yeah, they don't really give a shit, man. Like I've seen like people like film stars and those kind of people are there, and they are being insulted, man, by the
Hmm.
family, because when you're so rich, you call the shots pretty much, so. And who the heck are these musicians that are going to come and like play a filler? They don't even like we are not people, you know what I'm saying? And I guess if you and me were in their position, it would probably be something like that, man. Like what are the important things? There are priorities. There are your big celeb guests and their security, and are they being looked after? What would you like? Can I get you anything? So that's the main thing. And then everyone, there's an hierarchy. Like so. And at the bottom of this is the musicians and the crew and the chefs and
So
everyone.
when you have played at events in their house, so everybody's there. Like you can't even anybody you think about in the industry or even politicians and tons of people are there all the time. Do you think is it
We saw Salman in jail.
sorry say
Salman was like the black buck. Salman Khan, when the black buck case had happened and they said they had
hmm
arrested him, and that case is going on. We were playing that night in Ambani's and we saw Salman Khan hanging out over there, like having a drink. And we were like, they're supposed to be, I don't know.
we don't know. So the thing is that I forgot what I was talking about. I got I got hit by a very interesting info. I'm like, acha, that happened. But never mind. So I just wonder sometimes
Controversy.
are they there because they are supposed to be there, or are they there because they're actually wanting to be part of the celebration? What do you think?
If Ambani calls you to the house for a celebration, you're going to make it there.
Mm.
I think it's that. I think it's that.
Mm.
Like when one of the kids was getting married recently, they had Priyanka and Nick over there, and those guys were on their honeymoon. So you can imagine if they call you there, you're going to be there. Priyanka and Nick had just had like a very famous Nick, like the Sangeet and this and that. While that was going on, they stopped that and they went for the Ambani thing and they performed over there. So Beyonce comes and plays for their, Sangeet.
Yeah, and the
So
way
that
things are headed, it's interesting. I mean, I'm seeing what all is going to be working in terms of business because they are working towards a lot of buying of a lot of companies. They just there's a joke moving around called Ambani just bought the future.
you're
I mean, they bought the future group retail and everything. So it's a very interesting thing. I don't know where it's going to go because what happens is the moment you enter the monopoly aspect of things, it either really becomes amazing or it can go somewhere where generally people do not want it to go. But for example, if you think of Google, it's a monopoly, but it's not really under the radar of the government. It is now a lot, but in the time when it was flourishing, growing, it's still flourishing and growing. It had the power to create the impact it wanted to because it was a monopoly. Otherwise, it's very
yeah.
hard to create that kind of an impact. It's very hard to work on the things that they've worked on, they have given to the world to help solve so many of our problems. Like right now, you and I can just connect over email, do gazillion things very easily, and it's just getting easier and easier. They're working on making better cars, automation, and maps talking to the cars properly, and we don't even know what's going to come out. So this aspect of being the biggest business and having monopoly does do a lot of good, but in this particular case, I don't know deep enough about Reliance Industries, for example. I haven't read much, but in case of Tata, for example, like when I read a book called Tata Group, there's some really really heavy contributions to the country they've done. I'm not saying in any way that Reliance hasn't, but I'm unaware of it. But it's interesting how corporations have helped the nation stand up, and there have been times when how the Tata owned the airlines like Tata Airlines, and then it was Air India, then things fell down. It was even asked of them that please take the airline back and fix it. So many times things have gone off place because the government got involved and they wanted to run the thing and wanted to create the government job and etc. So Tata would step out of it, and then they've gone bad. Like they took over Jamshedpur, Tata Nagar for some time, and they couldn't run it. Then they gave it back to the Tatas again. There was this phase where it just didn't work. So all I'm saying is that it'll be interesting to see how this unfolds and where it goes in the future in the days to come. So it's interesting to know how for you, Kailasa wasn't like, you know, that you wanted to just manufacture a financial bed. It's actually, aligning of the stars that things came together. Somebody sent you something, and because even Naresh was mentioning in the podcast that how, because you didn't hear the song ever before that, you had no idea of what kind of song this is and what kind of a composition. Are you with me? Oh, yeah, you're with me. So,
Hey,
what kind of
yeah.
composition this is? So, just not having deep knowledge of that idiom altogether allowed you to expand your creativity in a manner that it became that sound that it became,
Yeah.
and it promoted itself. It's proper aligning of the stars, which I find fantastic. So, when you were making Saiyaan, when you were making Teri Diwani, uh, it's all proper creative expression, I believe, aligned with the fact that you will get enough remuneration, enough money out of the things that you're working on. So when all this aligns together and brings you to the place that where you want to be, was it a proper strategy on your end that you were thinking that this is where I want to be eventually, that I express my art but I also get enough revenue out of it?
Yeah, so coming back to what I was talking to you about a little earlier when I mentioned about Dalir Mendi and doing Tunak Tunak, well, when he could actually do all that other stuff, the Gurbani stuff that we know that he can do now. But so for me, it was like I needed like if I ever got a singer like that, then I would make the kind of music that I ended up making with Kailasa. So the idea was to get a great singer, a guy doing roots folk music, Indian folk music, but like give it the spin, So that was where we were headed. But when we did come up with the first album, there were songs like Teri Diwani, and there was Nai Harwa. There was another song, a beautiful song on the album, which is my favorite. So we were taking these songs and we were playing it to like our friends. Ram Sampath, he was one of them, and he hears it and he says, because this at the time when this came out, all those baby doll remixes and like everything was like Bin Tere Sanam. So it was that era, which was old Hindi songs redone with like one racy video, and that was all that was going on. There was nothing else that was selling. And so they were like, so Ram was like, man, you guys are coming out with this. It could either be a master stroke or it could be like the dumbest thing to do. So he said, like, let's see what happens. And then we released Teri Diwani that came out and like it really really took off. I was getting calls like within a couple of days from people saying like, man, I'm at this bar and the song is playing on the TV and everybody's singing it and stuff like that. So I guess the gamble it paid off. So it could have been that like people are like yeah, boring, like the song, there's a 1 minute alap and then the song starts or whatnot. It could have actually been like the most massive flop, but luckily for us it went the other way.
My mind was blown when I heard Richard Bona do it, yeah. Richard Bona was singing that intro.
It's so cool, man. It's like it's just such a perfect fit.
Aja, why were bands called all these interesting, deep, thick names at that point of time? Like there was Chakravyuh, there's Divya, then you can think of Dhwani, think of Yodha, and everything was like this Dha and Bhayanak and this and that. Was it a trend?
Yeah. So like it was the other way, right? There was bands like Witch Hammer. There was a band called Witch Hammer. There was like Saber Tooth, and there was Short Circuit. There was Rock Machine. So there was all these very 13 AD, all these very westernized kind of names and everything. That was the norm. And then I guess someone, like then there was Agni.
Yeah.
This band from.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were like among all the bands. I think that was the first one that had an Indian sounding name, and it was like not bad at all. It was like, man, yeah, and. It almost seemed like so when these MTV people and Channel V and everything started, it seemed like, what, aren't you proud of your own culture? You're Agni, right? Yeah, Agni, man. Yeah, we're Agni. It became like a thing like that. Oh, you're Rock Machine, or you're Witch Hammer. It didn't sound cool anymore.
Yeah.
I'm saying, but I don't know if that was the reason why any of us thought of naming. And Chakravyuh wasn't my name, right? It was, I think, one of those
I
guys,
think should be
Anand,
Dhruv.
Dhruv,
I
T2,
think
one
should
of
be
them
Dhruv.
came. Could be, yeah. Probably Dhruv. So, yeah, so some people, kind of caught on to that, we're from Bombay, we're not from like Delhi. So,
How
yeah, that kind of reflected in the.
how easy do you think now? It's much easier to release a song, right? It's much easier. You don't even need a label, you don't need anything, you're good to go. How different is it at the moment for you as compared to the past in terms of thought, execution, and release?
Very good question, man. Okay, so uh, now everything is a level playing field as compared to say 1990 whatever or 2005 or whatever, because those days they used to have music television. You'd have all these channels promoting a song. So when we came out with Teri Diwani, MTV played it like 6 7 times a day. 5.5 minute song, they played it that many times a day. So if you didn't catch it in the morning, you would catch it in the afternoon or in the evening or in the night or something. It was, and people were watching this all the time. Like they would play film promos. There would be certain hours for playing that, and they would have independent music playing. And everybody was tuned in that time to MTV and things like that. So if you had a good song, it could become a
Hmm.
hit overnight. You know, uh, but at some point, I think it was T series that kind of destroyed that because you know their family started making music videos. Tulsi Kumar and everything like that. She was making a video every day, and like they expected the channels to play it, and the
Hmm.
channels didn't want to play it, so they stopped playing music altogether just to not piss T series off.
Wow.
So the roadies and those kind of things started coming up. Like so, then they wouldn't play music anymore. Good music, bad music, didn't care because they didn't want to piss TCs off. If they played a song, then they'd have to play Tulsi Kumar's three videos for 5 times a day, and that wasn't the aesthetic, anymore. So then they stopped playing music videos altogether. So then we came out with Chandan May in 2009. Well, 2006 was Teri Diwani. 2009 we came out with Chandan May, and that didn't get played that often on the channels. And we could see because when we went out and played shows, we played these songs, and everybody
Hmm.
wasn't singing it. And uh, only like when we had played the circuit many times that people were kind of stuck with the old playlist because those are all the songs that we knew. And the songs that we were adding from the newer albums, nobody. And then but Chandan May still got a lot of play on all the channels. But after that, Rangile, that was in 2011. That was like, man, it's like we're playing alien music. No one knew any of these songs, and that was our best album, Rangile. Like of all our Kailasa albums, for me, that one's the best one, I think. Sound wise, songwriting wise, album flow wise, and everything. But no one even heard that. Like we'd had three videos, three beautiful videos. I thought like our best videos, and no one knew those songs, man. And like so, it totally changed the scene for us. So it was like like, and then some guy like Nazy or all these people, they were much later though, but like they didn't have any label behind them. They just had an iPad. He made the song on the iPad, shot the video on the iPad, and uploaded the video onto YouTube from there,
Hmm.
and got hits. And you didn't need like you didn't need Sony, you didn't need Sony's marketing, you didn't need all those kind of things to happen for his song to become a hit. He didn't need airplay on channels, he didn't need any of that stuff.
Hmm.
He did it guerrilla style, and it worked, and he was a major star.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing now. Like it's a level playing field, man. Like everyone's got the option of like scrolling past you. So if you're going to say something and if you want their attention, you better make something that's going to be really, really good and holds their attention, and like promises to like deliver, and like has a vibe about it. Looks trendy, looks nice, looks new. Doesn't seem like some ghisa pita old kind of thing, which is what
Yeah.
kind of great thing that happened though.
Yeah, it is very
It's a good
good
thing that
that
happened.
there's no more excuses to be made essentially. You have a smartphone, you have everything. It's as simple as that. Even like when I started the School of Bass, I didn't have a laptop. I had a simple 10,000 rupee phone. Record on that, edit on that, publish through that, and you're good. And everything went on like that.
Yeah.
And then, slowly I got money together, got my things together, got a camera and laptop and everything. But the point is that it is even to a level where there is no scope of making any excuses. But again, the whole sometimes thought is that I put up this song and nothing happened. But and people forget like how you have seasoned yourself in writing, how Dhruv has seasoned himself. Like when Dhruv Voyage comes, it's not that he sat with one song and he wrote it and it's done. When you write Teri Diwani, it's not that it's just like just one song you wrote and it became a hit. It's thousands of songs you would have written. I mean, some you remember, some you don't, but it's all that's condensed into it, and then you are releasing this amazing track. Even Michael Jackson, somebody was telling me that he used to write 100 songs and then pick 10 from there. So a person like him will write 100 hit songs, right? And then you pick 10 super hit songs, and of course you put them in an album, then magic happens. But just the practice of writing enough number of times. Even Sanjay says that if you want to write music, you have to write a little bit every day. Even if you write just a bass line or just anything, just get into that whole habit of how do I make this happen? How do I execute this? So now I also see that like how things shifted from the 90s to the Bollywood thing, and there's everything is kind of crossing lines where this is independent, this is Bollywood, this is cover. So it's kind of becoming mixed up. Lines are blurring. What I am seeing now, I don't know if you agree with this right now or not, but the coming up of Netflix, Amazon, and all the other over-the-top platforms, do you think it is creating more opportunities for music directors, for music producers, and there is going to be another era where people make music, independent music, or they compose stuff, and it's all going into this, and somehow it forms a parallel world to Bollywood, like how the 90s indie scene was. It was completely parallel to Bollywood. It wasn't mixed. It was separate things. Do you think that's going to happen in the days to come?
Yeah, so uh, I'm actually very excited for certain things that have happened, which is now like the hip hop scene in India. We've got that going. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna take this thing and gonna go to the other room so that everyone can carry on their lives as normal over here. Cooking. The cook is like going on with the CT of the, you know. So anyway,
Yeah, Shankar is a
change of
busy
venue.
man.
Yeah, change of venue. So yeah, so I'm actually very excited about. Is this okay?
Absolutely fine. Absolutely fine.
So this music which is representing the people, the man on the street, it's it's their voice. It's those people, those guys who celebrate during Ganpati, and who live like a pretty much hand to mouth existence. But these it's their voices, it's their songs, it's their music. I'm really excited about that. And also, like, on another tangent, I was speaking with this singer, this girl called Reshmi. She's from Cochin, and she's a friend of mine on Instagram, and we've been like, friends for over a year, and liking each other's posts and everything, but never met in person. And she was in Bombay, and she said, "Hey, I'm in Bombay," so we decided we'll hang out. And she came over and we had a jam, and it was amazing. And she's singing some songs in Malayalam, yeah. And and they were like beautiful songs, and we were jamming, and I was asking them, what are these lyrics? What do the lyrics mean? What do they say? And everything like that. And she told me about songs, music that has been parallel to the whole Brahmanical system in India, which is ragas and this music, and which have to go to
A
a
guru,
guru, and
yeah, learn everything.
a guru. There's a gharana and this and that, and it's only passed from like you know the Brahmanical caste people to Brahmins and to like the upper caste, but there's also the lower caste. There's also their lives that is not been represented at all in India.
Hmm.
It's their version of the story. You know, there are two Ramayans, man. There's the Ramayan, and then there's the Ramayan from Ravan's point of view, and there are and that whole history is never represented.
Hmm.
And there's his story, and if you read that story, you'll think he's the hero.
Hmm.
And and there's been a parallel culture that we've all ignored in India,
Hmm.
and she was telling me the songs, the lyrics of those songs that we were jamming on, which I found really beautiful, and asking what are the lyrics of the songs. So it's a boy, a Shudra boy, singing to his parents, and they used to have a house and they used to have a courtyard and they used to live well and everything like that. But they were thrown out of that house and they were thrown out of everything. Now they're on the streets, they don't have anything.
Hmm.
And the father's crying and the mother's like kind of like lying down and she's like broken, and the kid is trying to get them to like pep them up and everything. And he's saying, remember that house, remember that fruit garden, remember that thing. And these are the lyrics of the songs, and I was like, what are you saying? And she told me about this story of this prostitute, man. She was a Shudra, a lower caste prostitute back in 1600 and
Hmm.
something. Her story, she would prostitute herself for knowledge. So every time she slept with one of her clients, they would have to give her a book and they'd have to tell her everything that was there in the book and they'd have to educate her.
Wow.
And she herself like that, and she's got poetry and she's got songs, and this girl Reshmi, she sings her songs, and she sings the songs of the Shudras and things like that, and their music, and it's like, dude, like you don't even know like this thing exists in our
Yeah.
world, like I'm checking out like rock music, and I'm checking out this stuff, and like I'm thinking like there's Bollywood and like that's, but like like it's Bollywood is like the supersized McDonald's bad for your insides music, like, but there's all this other stuff that's there that's not represented. And so when this hip hop scene came out and all these Dharavi kids who wouldn't have been let inside freaking social, for the way they looked or whatever, are now on the stage and they're singing their music and everyone's like tripping out and they're hits and they're like gigging all over India and all that. I'm like, yeah, man. I'm really happy about it. It'll be a long time before like people like us, like playing like Beatles kind of music, or like rock music or jazz music will ever get that kind of like success or anything like that in this country. But like this is India's in like this is the real India of India, I think. Like the street guys, they don't know any instruments, they don't know anything like that, but they have lyrics and they have stories, and their stories are like really deep, and they're stories of survival and survival against the odds. So that's what I'm really like happy about. I'm happy that that scene is. I don't know if I've answered your question properly, but yeah, but as the scene evolves, as entertainment and as media evolves, I think we are gonna have to evolve our game also.
Hmm. Because I also saw that what are the odds where is it your acting debut? Can I call it a debut?
Yeah, it is acting debut.
Nice one, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that.
Uh,
And did you
Thank
also
you.
write the songs or something for that?
No, I did not write the songs. I only did backing vocals on one
Hmm.
song, but I was purely there as an actor.
Oh. So, here's the
I'm not an
interesting part
actor.
when you look for credits of whose song it is. So it mostly puts the singer's names. So it writes Abhay Deol's name, it writes your name, and one more name is there on the songs. I think they've just kind of categorized it like that. I'm trying to find who wrote those songs though.
So it was written by Sagar Desai, who's the music director, but he did it in collaboration with the film's director, who's Megha Ramaswamy. Uh, she had very strong ideas about what the music should be like. So I think lyrically and even the vibe and everything like that, she might have come up with, even though I'm not exactly sure. This is what being around them, this is the kind of thing that I got. That he fleshed out the songs and maybe wrote some of them, but also major contributor was the director Mega.
Amazing. How is Avedel
So
as a dude to hang with? I really am very fond of him. I've never met him, but I love whatever he does, man. How is he as a guy?
he's good, man. He's actually very different from the regular filmy crowd. I've known him from way back. Like he was assisting with Pratish Motwani on a video. Even Pratish Motwani, all these they were just like starting out this time when we had made this video with Shan. I'd produced the music, so Pratish was the video director of this song. And young Abhay Deval was hanging around over there as the assistant and everything like that. And we were hanging out, and I know him from then, and then we even went out and hung out many times and everything like that. He was just the most normal guy. But then I didn't, obviously, after he became a successful movie star and everything like that, I didn't see him for a long time. But then I saw him after all these years, and he's just as regular and normal as, but maybe a little, it's not the person that changes so much, it's the people that they have
Yeah.
around them. Like, they're like, they'll be guarding the person, and they'll be like, like kind of, who you want to speak to? And no, I'm sorry, he's busy right now. And like, but if he knew that was me, then it'd be, that kind of stuff. So you have a lot of people around them. But I mean, even though, I mean, he's quite a regular guy. Yeah. He's not let
Yeah,
any
it
of that go
seems
to his
like
head
that.
or
I
anything
mean,
like that.
I like him a lot, man. I mean, I just seeing what I haven't seen too many of his movies also, just a couple, but I found him that he's not one of everybody, like the other crowd that you see, that there is something going
And
on.
especially like being in the family that he's
Hmm.
from, and so it's almost like he's an anti Deol, like where
Anti there.
his yeah, his father was like Dharamveer, man, like doing all those films, and brother was Ghayal and Tariq, and this guy is like a soft-spoken guy, doing Dev D, and it was his idea apparently. Dev D was his script, and so all the creativity that you find in a movie like that was him actually.
Yeah, I think
So
it's just
that was his
after a
idea.
certain point you have to build these walls around you to protect yourself and just you being normal. Even like Miley Cyrus and Joe Rogan, they did a podcast together. I think 2 3 days back it came out, and she was constantly saying that she has a tough time uh, just being around somebody who doesn't think that wow, this is Miley Cyrus, and people start whispering, hey, it's that. So she was saying how she doesn't like that. She just wants to have that normal thing going on. And I think when somebody becomes famous, like Abhay Deol becomes famous, then this whisper thing starts that, hey, Abhay Deol is there, and talk softly, and this is happening, and that is happening. So that's why they have to build those walls, because they know the moment they start interacting with somebody, there is going to be this whole fake, unnecessary world. People will like you more when they don't have to or they're not supposed to. And of course, it's going to throw anybody off. So I believe that's why they build their walls properly around them.
Like imagine if you're a famous person in India, okay, and you're in like the airport and you want to take a wee, and you go in there, and the guy in the next cubicle is like, "Ugh," and he's taking a picture of you. You can't even take a pee in peace, So you need to have like someone around you at all times that'll kind of say like, not now, not now, not now. So you start separating yourself from regular human contact in certain ways, and the only people that you are, interacting with are these people that are protecting you from the
Yeah.
outside world. So I think it's inevitable that you lose a little bit of sense of reality. So I really, man, I want money, I want success, but I don't want fame, man. Really, like that fame that's like why would you want it, man? Like it.
I was at the
You know,
the lounge, the airport lounge, Bombay Airport Lounge, and I forgot which actress it was, but some difficult name, man, not able to recall. But the scene was hilarious. So a bunch of kids were sitting next to me. We are all having breakfast, and I don't know these kids. They're sitting, and they're like, "Hey, check that out! Is that person from that movie?" And I'm watching the kids, and kids are all excited. It's like, "Chal, chal, chal, selfie lete, chal, chal, selfie lete." So you know where that island is, right? Where you take food from. So these three kids, now
Yeah.
they should be like 19, 20-year olds. So that age group. So they walk up to the person and they ask, they don't even ask. This one guy, almost wanting to make a U-turn, almost goes close to that lady and says, "Ma'am, selfie." And she looks at them. She's like, "No!" And three of them turned around like dogs. You know, like how when you shout a bunch of dogs, like "Hud!" And they just turned around. They had to walk away. And it was such a sight,
Oh,
man, such a sight. When the kids were like, "Oh shit, what the hell did we do?" She said, "No." And they didn't even ask, "Can we take a picture with you? We like your work." Nothing. It just went, just close to her and, "Madam, selfie." Paresh, bro, this has been great. It's been a lot of hours together. I think we
I mean,
spent at least a couple of hours together. I believe this is my longest one. So thank you so much for coming to the School of Base podcast. I had a blast talking to you.
it was a pleasure, man. It was a pleasure being on
And
this.
I'm building something in the future where I'll be able to have more people together in person. So it's going to be super fun to talk to people like that, like, get you and Dhruv together or the whole Chakravyuh band together and, sit and talk about those times and discuss those beautiful things. So I'm working towards that. Whenever that happens, it happens and it's all going to be fun.
Yes.
Thank you so much, buddy. Uh, I'm
Man, all the best to you guys and to your team and to you and to the School of Base podcast and everything. It was awesome to be on. And anytime you want to have us again, I'll be here, man.
for sure. Thanks a ton. Means a lot. I'll hang up the call now. I'll
Okay,
see you
bro.
soon, man. All
Cheers.
right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.